Welcome to Mindful Conversations. My name is Greg Dwyer. My guest today is my neighbor. She's a friend of mine. We just came back from Israel. And actually, she's pictured here. You probably won't be able to see her, but she's sitting right over here in this chair. Fran, Clem, thanks for being on the show.
It's great to be here and talk about this, Greg.
So I've been doing these shows for about a year and a half. I've never had anybody come on the show talking about a trip, but this trip is special to me, as you know, and I've been doing this since 2009. And I know we talked about this probably for, 6 months, and you were on the fence, and then you decided to go. What was the deciding factor for you to go on a trip to Israel? And you've never been out of the country per se, right? Maybe
this
just
was
once?
my first trip out of the country, with the exception of being in Girl Scouts and walking across the border, looking at Niagara Falls, and then coming back into the United States. So this was something that was like an impossibility that was given to me to experience. And what really sold me was having you tell me that it was your favorite place to go. And I thought, somebody that I know, somebody who loves the trip, who knows that what is going to be involved in the traveling. And so I signed up.
Yeah, I've been to Italy, I've been to Greece, I've been to France, I've been to Ireland, I've been to Portugal, I've been all over Europe. About 20 years ago, I pulled out a journal around New Year's Eve, and I started writing down, I want to go to Fiji, and I wrote all these different places down. And like 25 years ago, I did not have the money to travel the world. And then I had the opportunity to work for a college, and they allowed me to do travel for them. So our first year, I think it was like 2009, we took 50 people to Israel. And then what happened was I got the bug. I got the travel. They call it wanderlust, in the sense that you can't sit still and you just want to travel. So, but I keep on coming back to Jerusalem because there's just so much history there, and there's just so much meaning there. And I love doing it. I've been there 9 times, and this was your first experience. So I want to see it through your eyes. What were you thinking like the night before, getting ready to go on this plane trip and flying, 9 hours, 10 hours to get there? What was going through your head?
I was very happy to have some information that you shared with me, the DVDs and things like that I could kind of look to see what some of the trip would be like.
Yeah.
And lists from the travel company, Nawas, who gave me an idea of what kinds of objects and clothing I would need. And so those kinds of things were wonderful to have, so that I didn't have to stress over, did I have the right thing? Was I making the right plan?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a wonderful preparation for actually getting on the plane at JFK.
Yeah, one of the things I do is I'll do conference calls, and I'll do sometimes in-place meetings. And it's funny, for the last 10 years, the same questions come up. How much money should I take? Do they take American money? How big should the suitcase be? What's the food like? And so I could list, there's 25 questions that people have asked. I think the one question that came up this year that has never come up before, which surprised me. Do you know the one I'm talking about is, can I wear shorts?
Can I wear shorts? I knew,
And I've never had anybody ask me that before. But unfortunately, a lot of these religious places, these holy places, they'll have signs: no hats, no photography, keep quiet, and then no shorts. So, I was saying to the person that brought it up, you're going to be restricted, because some places they don't really allow that. Modesty is the key. Besides going with me, and besides going with someone that had been there and loved the place, why Israel? Why Jerusalem? A lot of people, when they hear the word Jerusalem or they hear Israel, immediately they think of a war zone.
Well, this is interesting because I had a family member who was very concerned.
Okay, right.
Why are you going there? Yeah. There is fighting over there. There are people hurting each other. And I thought, you could walk out the door in the town where we live and have something bad happen.
Sure.
I didn't want to let that limit me to experiencing being where Jesus and Mary, Joseph, all the saints that were alive and there at that time.
Right.
I wanted to experience that, and through my faith community at the Lord's Shrine in Litchfield, I thought, this is things I've been reading about and places I've been praying over for so long, and I could actually go there and be part of this experience, and that was very, very wonderful to.
It's the number one concern. I can call somebody out of the middle of the blue, call Colorado or whoever. I could sit down with the church group or sit down with the civic group, and I could tell them we're going to Israel next year. the number one concern is safety. And one of the things that I did, not this trip, but I did it last trip, is I'll get on the microphone on the a bus, like maybe the last day or the first day, and I'll say, raise your hand if you felt afraid to come on this trip. Nobody puts their hand up because they don't want to admit that they were afraid,
They don't
right?
want to admit it.
But then I'll say to them, I'll go, how many of you had relatives that tried to talk you out of it? Everybody puts their hands up. There's a mother, there's a father, there's a brother. In fact, I had a woman last year. She said to me, I want to go. And I said, no problem. I says, the only concern is we're leaving in like 3 weeks and you have to pay for the whole trip immediately. And she says, no problem. I'll send the check tomorrow after I talk to my daughter. And I says, ma'am, I'm going to tell you straight up. I says, the minute you get on the phone and talk to your daughter, you're not coming on the trip. And that's what happened. She called me the next day and she said, I'm not sending the check. And I said, did you talk to your daughter? It's the number one concern. And it's like, it's all relative. Like you could hear stories of New Jersey or New York. Someone got shot in Texas. Does that mean you don't go to Broadway? Does that mean you don't go out to dinner? It's all how you look at the world.
It absolutely is. And, we saw soldiers over there.
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't like we didn't have to go through checkpoints.
Oh, we did.
And we had, when we were at the River Jordan,
Yeah.
and there were Israelis on one side and Palestinians
Yeah,
on the other
yeah,
side
yeah.
in uniform,
Yeah.
carrying guns.
Yeah.
But fortunately, there was no need to worry. I just wanted to be there to experience the place, and I did. So it was all was well.
Yeah, and here we are in Israel. This is, I don't know if you can see this, but
Yes.
this is our group. There are 36 of us, and we're standing in the West Bank, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the West Bank, and across the river, and the river's not that big. It's probably, I don't know,
Very
what would you say, 5 feet wide? Six-
Maybe a little bit more than that.
Maybe
there.
6 feet?
Maybe a
Okay,
little
so
bit
on the
more.
other side, you have Jordan, which is another country.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting experience that I had is after we took this photo, I get back on the bus and we're driving back towards Jerusalem, and I see the mountains and I see the desert, and the feeling came over me, what a peaceful experience. And the woman next to me literally said out loud, I feel afraid. And I went, what? Like, I couldn't comprehend the concept that I could be seeing this beautiful desert, right, and experiencing this, and this person next to me could feel a little anxious, and I could feel a little peace. It's subjective.
It's what you choose to concentrate on.
You think?
I believe that you can either spend your time worrying,
Yeah.
or you can look for what you're doing, what is the beauty, the peace, the
Yep.
presence, the new friends you're making, the incredible experience, and anticipating what's coming for the next few days. That's how I want to live my life. I don't want to be anywhere and just be worrying about what might happen.
Right,
Because
exactly.
you never know.
Are you saying you didn't have any fear at all?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
I
Okay,
did
okay.
not. You know what? I'm an artist, as
Yep,
you know,
yep.
and I wanted to have a way to express my wish for peace over there. Someone on the trip said to me when I said, "What can happen that will make people come to an understanding, and that will never happen?" The person said,
Oh, really?
"We're never going to have peace here."
Right.
And I thought, well, I make these little origami boxes. They're folded paper, and inside I put a note that had in Hebrew, Arabic, and English the word peace.
Wow.
And I made a number of them. I think it was 8 altogether.
Okay.
And I either handed them to people or I left them places for people to find. And I just thought, if that is something that maybe softens someone's heart in some way, whether it's towards their enemy or their children or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just thought that's one thing I wanted to do to make my journey a peace mission in a way.
It was a wonderful thing to do. And in fact, you gave one to Iyad, our tour
I did.
director, and he came up to me later and he goes, "Do you know who gave this to me?" And I go, "Yeah, I know who gave it
Did you
to
tell him?
No,
No.
I didn't.
Okay, good.
No, I did not tell him who it was. And so you handed them to people on the trip and
I
also
did.
people off the trip as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And I did give one to Hannah, the bus driver.
Oh, the
as
bus
well.
driver as
So,
well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, I tell you, this is the 9th trip, and I'm doing another one in 2020, and hopefully every year. And really, I started this about 10 years ago because I wanted people to see that their perceptions of reality around the Middle East are not necessarily on target. Everything you hear in the news about Gaza, we don't go anywhere near Gaza, obviously. But when you're sitting down with folks and they have different culture and they have a different mindset, You have Christians, you have Arabs, and you have Jews. It's a great opportunity for you to ask people questions. Did you meet any Christians? Did you meet any Jews? Did you meet any Muslims? Did you have any conversations with anybody outside the bus, or did you stay within the community of the bus?
I think it was pretty much with the people that I was with.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure, we talked a little bit, Iyad and I, the tour guide. He was so knowledgeable and so wonderful. I wish I could remember everything that I experienced. There was so much to take in.
He's a Christian from the West Bank.
Yes, he is.
And he's a Palestinian. And when people hear Palestinian, they think, oh, that's a terrible thing. But here's a guy that goes to a church in Bethlehem. He's a Catholic, has a wife and a couple kids, and he's from the West Bank.
Yes.
And I've never been afraid of him at all,
Never.
But when we went through TSA, they wanted to know my connection with this guy. They wanted to know how long I knew him, if I knew his family. And so the tension, and I'm not an expert on political tension, but what I understand is it's all about real estate. It's about people wanting certain real estate, and no one's budging. And that's really what it's all about.
I guess so. One of the things that really had me wondering what was going on was the trash and the garbage in the streets.
Yeah.
And there were places in Jerusalem that were perfectly clean and fine, and then there were other neighborhoods where everything was just piled up on the curb and in front of buildings. And when I asked about why this was, they said it was the difference between the Jewish section and the Arab section, that they were providing garbage pickup in the Jewish section, but not in the other parts of the town. So I thought, there's a place to start.
If you go to Jerusalem, and I suggest you go with a group. If you've never been there before, it's not easy to navigate yourself all by yourself. But if you go with a group, and there's different sections in the old city. There's a Christian section, there's an Arab section, and there's a Jewish section. I know we spent some time in the Jewish section, but I got to tell you, one of the characteristics of the Jewish section of the old city is it's immaculate. You could eat off the floor, right?
Yes.
Then you go over to the West Bank and you go over to Bethlehem, and you see poverty, you see children begging for $1, and you see a lot of garbage. One of the ladies on the trip, she was from New York, she says to me, I want to ask you questions about the trash problem. And now this is before we got to Bethlehem.
Yes.
And I said to her, wait until Tuesday. Wait till you get to Bethlehem.
You think it's bad now? Wait till you get to Bethlehem.
Yeah, I've seen piles, 6, 7 feet tall of garbage
really
that's not collected.
So sad.
One of my favorite parts of the trip is actually coming home, because you start seeing your home and your surroundings differently. The things that you took for granted, you know what I mean? The fact that, I don't know, maybe cleanliness or just being in your house, your surroundings, it's familiar. But travel, as Rick Steve talks about, is intensified living. It's intense. You have to leave your house, you have to pack a bag, to get on a plane, and you have to face uncertainty.
And some of the things that we were cautioned about, like not dealing with the people that were peddling on the street, trying to get us to buy things.
Right.
And I wanted to be safe, but it was very, very difficult to see some people that you knew were struggling financially. The one episode that will stand out in my mind for the rest of my life was, and I'm not sure where we were, what town we were in, but there was a little boy coming down the hill as we were going up, carrying a baby goat.
That was Bethlehem.
That was Bethlehem.
And the goat's name was Rosie. Remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I wanted to find out what's the goat's name.
He just stood, and I walked up to him, and he looked up at me. He was about 9-10 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold my goat.
Right.
And I said,
Did you do it?
Yes, he handed me the goat, and I gave him some money.
Nice. Yeah.
And then there were several other people in our group that did the same thing.
Yeah.
And
I mentioned to them, I said to the people in the group, I said, this child doesn't have a lot of money, so $1 means a lot to them.
An awful lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, we had to be careful about what we did as far as being able to open a wallet in a public square, because we were cautioned there would be an opportunity for somebody to grab something and run.
I have to tell you a story. About 5 years ago, we walk out of the shop. The name of the shop is the Rock Shop. And we walked out of the shop in Bethlehem. This guy, he was from, I think he was from Lincoln, Nebraska, if I remember right. I don't remember his first name. But I said to him, get back on the bus, And he was standing there. There was a guy selling him a flute, a scarf, some postcards. And they were swarming. And I said, look, get on the bus, get on the bus. So he reaches out, takes out $5, gives him, $5 for the flute or whatever it was. And then at dinner time that night, he opens up his wallet. He has nothing. Everything is gone. And the guy who led the trip called up the company, the rock company, and said, "Hey, would you play back the camera?" And they played back the camera, and they found the guy that did it, and they gave him the money back.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how much we take care of people. We take people to shops that we know the relationship. You know, it's not perfect. Let's say we had somebody slip and fall. In fact, I think they slipped and fell now down near the Jordan River. You know, people, I think the biggest hurdle or the biggest challenge, I should say, is the fact that the ground isn't even. And a lot of times you're walking, and it's happened to me. I've fallen on the ground.
The walking is a real workout.
It's
is. Not only the steepness of some of the pathways that we traveled, and some of it was like a ramp, a road that was very steep, and some of it was stairs. But it's all rough cobblestone.
It is.
For the most part, and you really, really have to be mindful of where you are and where you're standing. And it was a real workout physically. You know.
Not too many elevators, especially in those churches.
No elevators, no escalators, no nothing like that.
You have to be in good shape. But, you know, I remember having somebody on the trip maybe 8 years ago. She was like 98 years old, and she was a trooper. And she was just like, let's go. So, and you got some people on the trip that want to shop. Other people want to sightsee. Other people want to relax. I mean, you can't please everybody. But what was your favorite activity of all the things that we did? What's the thing that stands out in your mind the most?
You're asking me to pick one thing.
Yeah, just one thing, and we'll go from there.
This is very difficult, but the thing that has gotten a big reaction, because I posted some pictures every day. I try to post 2 or 3 photos on Facebook. So the one thing that was when we were at the Church of St. Anne.
Oh, yeah, and you sang, right?
And I sang.
We have a clip of that, by the way. No, just kidding.
The priests were asking, you can play it. The priest was asking the groups to come up to the altar and sing. And there were people there from Nigeria and Asia and South America, and they were doing that. And I kind of looked around and saw my group had looking at the architecture and
Didn't
the
we sing?
artwork.
No, we got together and sang. We did something. I remember that. I mean, I didn't sing, but I recorded.
Yeah, but I decided I didn't want to miss the opportunity to sing in that church.
So you did a solo.
I got up all by myself, and fortunately, your friend Kim
Sharp,
who's now my friend,
okay,
had her phone out and recorded most of what I had sung, and
yeah.
I'm so blessed to know that is something that I can share and let people know how much that meant to me to be actually be, because I love to sing. That's one of the things I love to do, and to be in that church with the acoustics. And that, for a memory, is one I will cherish always. So.
Now that's another thing you brought up. You traveled as a single person. You had a single room. You were probably concerned, hey, am I going to meet friends? Am I going to be able to feel like I belong to this group? How long did it take you to acclimate? How long did it take you to connect with people at dinner? I mean, what was that like for you?
It was a wonderful group to be a part of. There were so many people there that were traveling with their pastor or traveling with family members, and when they realized that I was there alone, I was included. If I went down for breakfast, come and sit. Here we are. Have a seat with us, and we get to talking. And I'd ask them about where they were from and then we would exchange information. And there are a couple of people who I will keep in touch with, hopefully, that we have shared contact information. And it will be wonderful to be able to share some of our memories and where our lives are going now and how the trip has affected that. So it's been wonderful to meet so many new people from all over the country. It wasn't like this was just New England, Greg.
No, we had people from California, we had people from Colorado, we had people from Florida, we had people from New York, we had people from Connecticut. I think that's it. So we had about 36 of us, and then we had the bus driver, and he's from Jerusalem. We also had the tour guide, and he's from Bethlehem. So, and the one thing that really struck me is when we pulled into the Church of the Beatitudes over on the Sea of Galilee, there must have been 15 or 20 buses there.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, I thought 2018 was a busy season. This has been the busiest season they ever had in Jerusalem.
The crowds were incredible.
They were.
In certain places.
From all over the world.
And we were very fortunate that the timing was good, that there were a lot of people there, but we were able to get in. We didn't have to wait for hours to see the site. And that was amazing that we were able to do that.
My favorite churches are the Church of the Nativity and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Did they make a big impression on you spiritually or emotionally, or just a lasting impression? What was your thought on that?
I think that to know that the Church of the Nativity and to go down those steps and to see that site who would have thought that? And I was very proud of myself that I didn't have any limitations as far as not getting to see something because
Right.
it was too dark, it was too steep. It was
Right.
I did it. I did
Yeah.
it all. And a Lazarus tomb was another one.
Did you
that
go
I
down
thought-
all the way down to the bottom
I
of
went
that?
down to the landing. I did
Okay.
not squeeze myself through that
Yeah.
little opening,
Yeah.
but you could look through at another point and see down to the actual site.
Speaking of going down, what about the Dead Sea? It's the lowest place in the world. What's interesting about Jerusalem in December or really around the fall time is it can be like 50 degrees, 60 degrees in Jerusalem. You get on a bus and you go all the way down. It takes you about a half an hour. And it could be 85 degrees down there at the Dead Sea. What'd you think about going into the water there?
I mean, it's hard to find words to describe that experience. I decided that I wasn't going to put a swimsuit on and go in
Okay.
up to my neck, but I did buy some special shoes in
Oh,
a
nice.
gift shop so that I could go in the water and not step on anything sharp.
Yeah.
And I rolled my pant legs up past my knees and went out into the water. And I wish I could describe the feeling of that water. It's almost like it has a lubricant in it.
It's like silky.
You'd think
Yeah.
you'd think salt would be drying and everything,
Right.
but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing has been, one of the things I did when we went to a site, I tried to find a stone and to bring back because
you did?
I want to make a work of art using some of the stones that were from the different places
So
that
what are
we
you going to do?
visited.
You're going to take all these different pieces and put them together?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh,
I'll know when I
that's-
sit down
that's
and get to do it.
exciting.
But the sand that was in those shoes,
Yeah.
I can't get it all out. It's like it's still wet.
Really?
And I've got a small bag full of it, but there's more that still needs to come out of those cracks. But it's an experience like I
Yeah.
couldn't have anticipated how that was going to feel.
I went in the Dead Sea once. I think it was like 1995.
Okay.
And we went in, you sit back and you float. But what they don't tell you is then you got to go out and shower. And I'm telling you, it's not easy to get that
You
salt
can't
off
get it
you.
off,
I
no.
don't think, I think it takes like a couple days to get, it's like a film of saltiness that just, it's almost like it penetrates your body.
It does.
But it's healing. It's supposed to have a lot. In fact, they sell that mud. They sell that salt.
They do.
A lot of the products.
A
that
lot
they
of
have.
this hand lotions and things say
Yeah.
that has the Dead Sea minerals
Exactly.
in it. But that was an amazing experience, and my skin felt very like
Yeah.
it had been. I had put moisturizer on it for days.
Yeah.
For days.
And the sad thing about it is it's going away.
Mm-hmm.
When I went there in '95, it looked like this giant, I don't know, it looked like a hot dog, or a big rectangle, right? And you look
Yes.
at maps from 20, 30 years ago, it looked like this long thing. Now it looks like this.
Very small.
It is, and you can see the fact that it's evaporating. There was a sign that I saw. It says, please don't take any mud from the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is dying. And I thought to myself, wow,
Yes, I can't imagine that disappearing. That would be such a tragedy not to have that site and have people be able to experience that.
What do you think about the other side of the coin, the Sea of Galilee? I know we went on a boat ride.
We did.
What was that experience like for you?
It was so beautiful. The scenery. I wasn't know what to expect as far as what the landscape was going to look like.
Right.
And to see the hills in the distance and the beautiful blue of the water, and I don't think there was any other boat out on.
No, we
on
went
the
early
sea.
in the morning. There was nobody out there.
And so we
It was
had
just
place.
us.
We had the place to ourselves,
We did.
and it was just lovely to see. The other thing that really struck me, and the temperature was so wonderful. It was in the 60s, and one day it got into the 70s.
Yeah.
And when we're riding on the bus, and you're looking at those beautiful hillsides that are all sandy and rocky, nothing, but down in the valley at the bottom are crops growing.
Right.
And I had no idea
Right.
that there would be that kind of agriculture there.
Such a contrast.
Yes, and to see mango trees and date palms and olive trees and banana, well, you couldn't see the banana trees because they're all tented. They're all covered up so that the animals can't steal the bananas.
Exactly.
But the plants were just incredible contrast to the dry, arid hillsides, and that was an incredible revelation for me to see.
What'd you think of the tour guide?
Oh, Iyad was wonderful. He absolutely knows so much and is able to express it in ways that are understandable. It was almost like I wish that I had recorded some of what he said, though, because
Right.
it's hard to take it all in. And
Yeah.
I know there were several people that were keeping journals and making notes, and I thought that would be a good thing to do. But then I didn't want to miss looking around
right,
either,
right.
because I was writing.
Exactly.
And so I chose not to do that. But it was when I, that once in a while people would say, it's too much to take in. It
is too much to take in.
He's talking too much, and I'd say, I just tune him out. If
Right.
I just needed to kind of enjoy the place where I was, then I could, pick it up again at some point, or, not just.
I had a minister one time about 10 years ago, and this guy was trained in the Bible, and he walked away and he said to me, it's just overwhelming. There's just so much century coming in that you can't comprehend it all. You can't remember. Like every day I write down things because I'll forget, and I've been there 9 times. But if I don't write down Dead Sea or Galilee or this or that, I just come to the conclusion it just merges into the next day.
It does. It does. It's a lot to take in, and that's the good news, bad news, because I want to be able to remember what I did,
Right.
and connect to those memories. And I've got so many photos that I took, and I want, I put them in albums labeled either the day or sometimes the town where we were. But even at that, it's so much to try to recall exactly what happened.
I tell people the best thing to do is to buy a book. You get a book of Galilee or you get a book of the Holy Land, and then you can just look at it. And then the pictures that you want to savor, as far as your friends, the people you meet, you take those photographs.
That's right.
But,
that's right.
What would you say to somebody that's thinking about going to Jerusalem and maybe a little afraid, or they're just concerned? What would be the message? What would you say to them?
Well, I think I would ask them what kind of anxiety was, they were having, what was the reason for it, and then, depending on their answer, I could say, yes, that is a concern.
Sure.
But also, there are things that could happen if you don't go. You could stay at home and come down with a terminal illness, or we don't know what the future holds.
Exactly.
And the hard thing sometimes for me is to say, I'm going to go and live my life and not worry so much, because you need to be cautious too. You need to be educated and be aware of some of the possibilities, and then make a decision about what you feel is going to work in your life. So I'm glad I decided to go.
I think the benefits outweigh the uncertainty. And the travel company says this. They say the most dangerous part of the trip is getting to JFK. That you have to get in your car, you have to travel down to JFK, and you have to make that connecting flight and get on the plane. And then what I say is probably the most dangerous thing that can happen on a trip like this is that you're going to fall. The guy that trained me, his name is Tim Kennedy. I think he's retired now, but he had been to Israel about 40 times. And I thought to myself, okay, let me get this straight. You've been to Israel 40 times, you've gone there and you've come back 40 times and nothing's happened to you. I mean, just do the math. It's like planes flying in the United States or all over the country. If they land and everything is going okay, there's a sense of security. If other people have done it, then maybe you can do it too. And then when I explain to people that thousands and thousands and thousands of pilgrims are there every single day, like you, if someone comes up to you and says, I can't believe you did it, that you risked your life, you probably never felt that you risked your life doing this.
I didn't feel like, felt very, very, very safe.
Very safe.
And I was just wanting to be in the moment
Right.
and not think about what if.
What if?
There was one church, and maybe you'll remember
Yeah,
which
I'm
one
sure.
it was, but we were standing outside, and Iad pointed to the edifice, the outside of the church, to show the bullet holes.
Oh, yes.
And
Zion Gate.
Okay, but he said these were made in 1946 and 80 and 68.
Yes.
And I said, okay, that's a long time ago. Who knows what tomorrow will bring?
Exactly.
But this is the reality of the people who live here.
Excellent.
What a way to have to raise a family, to think about what might happen.
Exactly.
In some of those.
So you did this. I want you to think about where you want to go next, but don't tell me. And I don't know if the wanderlust bug has got you, the travel bug, but I'm thinking of all the places that you want to go, the next place for you is Ireland. Is that true?
How do you do that?
Excellent. We're out of time. We'll catch you next time on Mindful Conversations. My guest today is Fran Clem, and we hope we gave you something to think about. Until next time, mind yourself.